Okay, class, I am not here today, so here's what I am going to ask you to do instead. I am going to ask you to go through 8.1 Day 2 notes. This is a little of a discovery learning activity where actually the front page you are going to fill out yourself, and then the back page is going to be kind of like where we can go from there in regards to each type of triangle, and then if we can find a pattern. So here's what I want you guys to do is for this first page, these are your hints to help you out, okay? But what you are doing is you are filling out the chart on the back based upon each one of these pictures. You are going to be using Pythagorean theorem, okay? And then you need to simplify all radicals in simplest form, okay? And so we just want to do that first, okay? So here's what I want you guys to do is pause this video. You can work in groups if you want. But once you are done with the first page and filling in this table, come back to this video and then we will discuss kind of how that table should be filled out in terms of each type of triangle. So yeah, pause this video now and then come back once you are done to check your answers, and then we'll go through the rest of the notes. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is in each one of these triangles, I'm going to kind of lay out what each one part you should have. So like starting off with angle A in triangle 1, you should have 45 degrees, okay? For angle B, that should also be 45 degrees. For angle C, that should be 90 degrees. For the sides, for side A, it should be 9. For side B, you should have gotten 9 using Pythagorean theorem. And for side C, you should have gotten 9 root 2 using Pythagorean theorem. Okay, that's for triangle 1. For triangle 2, we should have the following. So angle A should be 30 degrees. Angle B should be 60 degrees because it's 180 minus 90 minus 30. And then angle C is your 90 degree angle. Okay. The sides should be the following. So you should have 6. For side C, that's given to you, that was 12. And then for side B, that's the guy in the middle, you should have 6 root 3. Okay. For the third one, so for triangle 3, okay, here's what you should have. Angle A up there should be 30 degrees. Okay, angle B is 60 degrees. Angle C is your 90 degrees. Okay, side A, or we'll start with side B. Side B is root 300. Okay, for side C, you should have for side A, you should have 10. Okay. And then for side C, you should have 20. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. For triangle 4, you should have the following. So angle A and angle B are the same, so that would be both 45 degrees, splitting evenly. For angle C, that's your 90 degree angle. Okay. For side C, you should have root 50. Okay. For that one, okay. And then for sides A and B, okay, this is really, and I'm going to write it like this actually, this is really 5 root 2. Okay. And so sides A and B are both 5 and 5. Okay. For triangle 5, you should have the following. So this one should be angle A is going to be 30 degrees. Angle B is going to be 60 degrees. Angle C is your 90 degree angle. Okay, so we can probably assume that all 3 sides are, angle C is all 90. Okay. Side A is 7, that's given to you. Side B is the square root of 147, okay, which also reduces to 7 root 3. And then side C, you should have gotten it to be just 14. Okay. Triangle 6, okay, your 2 angles for A and B are 45 both. Okay. And then angle C is 90 degrees. The 2 sides, A and B, are both 8, and then you should have for your third side 8 root 2. Okay. And then finally for triangle number 7, you should have the following. You should have angle A is 30, angle B is 60 degrees, angle C is 90 degrees. Okay. Sides A is going to be 11. Side B is going to be 363, which is also the same thing as 11 root 3. And then finally for side C, that's 22. Okay, so you should have all those following information. Okay? So here's what we are going to look at. Obviously, we can do this all day, but we need to somehow find two rules. Okay. This is what's going to be referred to as two types of special right triangles. It's called 30, 60, 90 for the second one, and then 45, 45, 90 for the first one. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to point out kind of two triangles. We'll look at triangle number 1 for 45 first. Okay. So this one you have 45, 45, 90. If we look at the sides, okay, the two legs in this case, those are the same. Okay. So what we're going to do is like this. Okay. We're going to write it like this, okay? If we are looking at the sides, okay, we're going to start at the two legs. In a 45, 45, 90 degree triangle, they're the same. So we're going to leave those as N and N for the two same, okay? Now, if we're looking at side C, that was your hypotenuse. Think about what changes from your hypotenuse from your leg. Well, the only thing is you're adding an N root 2. And so we have it like that, okay? Okay, so then that's for 45, 45, 90. Let's choose one with 30, 60, 90. So let's just look at the next triangle, okay? So for 30, 60, 90, the thing I noticed is that 6, 6 root 3, and 12. Well, here's the deal. Let's just call 6 N, okay? What we're going to have is the difference between 6 and 6 root 3 is that the N value, 6, is getting multiplied by a root 3. So we have that, okay? And then from 6 to 12, that's just double, so it's 2N. This is not a surprise. This is the ratios that hold regardless of what type of triangle you have and what sides, okay? So we're going to write these out, okay? Here's the thing I need you guys to think at is if we're looking at that first triangle, let's call it 45 degrees, 45 degrees, and 90, okay? The sides opposite to both 45s are going to be N and N. They're the same amount, which is what we discovered. Okay? And then for across from 90, which is the hypotenuse, we did N and added a root 2. That's the first rule we're going to use. Okay? Okay, so then from there, here's how we're going to do this other part. You are going to have this be 30, this is 60, and then we have 90 here. Okay? We're going to look opposite to 30. So opposite to 30 is N. Opposite to 60 was adding a root 3 to the end, so N root 3. And then opposite to 90 was 2N. Okay? And that's our second rule. Okay? Okay, so this is going to get a lot easier because you're not going to have to use Pythagorean theorem every single time. What we're going to do in the following examples is the first step you need to do is you need to find the value of N. Okay? Yes? And then from there, we're going to find the values of A, B, and like C. Okay? So we're going to do these 4 examples very shortly. Okay? I'm using these rules above. Okay? So here's what I'm going to start with. You're going to start with the only side that you have labeled, which is that 4. Okay? You are going to go to the opposite angle to 4, which is right there. That's 30 degrees because the other two are 30 and 60. Okay? What we're going to do from there is, well, that tells me what N is, because if I look at that second triangle, opposite to 30 is N. So in other words, N equals 4. That is your first step. You need to first solve for N. Okay? Okay? I'm going to use N as a tool to now find A and B. So let's start with A. Okay? If I'm looking, I'm going to go opposite to A, which is 90. In terms of a 30, 60, 90 degree triangle, I'm looking there. Opposite to 90 is that 2N. So in other words, it's going to be 2N. And if we know N is 4, it would be 2 times 4. Okay? And so A would be 8. Okay? So that's for that. Okay? And then for B, B is opposite to angle 60. Opposite to 60 is N root 3. And so what I would do is that what gives me B. Okay? I'm plugging in N, and I'm adding a root 3. So this is actually a lot quicker than Pythagorean theorem because it's going to give you quicker answers rather than having to set it up. Okay, let's look at the other type. So let's look at 45, 45, 90. So the same idea applies. We're going to start with the side that we have labeled, which is 3. We're going to draw an arrow opposite to 3, which is 45 degrees, okay? If I look at my ratio above, right above, okay, opposite to 45 is n. So in other words, what it's really saying is n equals 3. That I'm going to use as a tool, okay, to find x and y, okay? So be careful. X is not always across from 45. In this case, x is across from 90. So across from 90 in a 45, 45, 90 degree triangle is that n root 2. So what I'm going to do, n root 2 equals x. I know n is 3, so x is 3 root 2. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So then from there, you're going to find y. Well, look at y. Y is just across from 45. So y is equal to just n. It's the same amount. In other words, y equals 3. Okay. None of these you should not have decimals, okay? So if you have a decimal, check, well, not check your work. Leave it as an exact form, okay? So don't leave it as a decimal. Yes. Okay. Let's try this one. Okay, so for this one, you're going to start with the side that is labeled, which is that root 3. Draw an arrow opposite, which is going to be 30 degrees, okay? So then from there, what I would do is opposite to 30, I'm using my ratios above, is opposite to 30 is that n. So in other words, n equals root 3. You're going to use that to find x and y. Okay, so let's start off with x. X is opposite 90, okay? So opposite 90 in a 30, 60, 90 degree triangle is 2n. If I know n is root 3, x would be 2 times root 3. You cannot multiply because one's in the radical, one's outside, okay? Okay, be careful with 60. So across from 60 is y. That means y is equal to m root 3. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that root 3 and I'm going to plug it in there. So I'm going to get y equals, it's going to be root 3, but times, you need to carry this down, another root 3. Okay. All right, so then from there, root 3 times root 3 is the square root of 9. And so I'm just taking the square root of 9, that's just 3. And that's y. Okay. All right. Last one, okay? So this last one deals with 45, 45, 90, and I should say this more specifically. You see a 45 degree angle, it has to be 45, 45, 90 degree triangles, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go opposite, start with the side, and opposite to that is going to be 90. You have to look, because both 90s appear, but in a 45, 45, 90, you're using that n root 2. So in other words, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say that n root 2 equals the side 2 root 2. It is not the same as what we've done before because now we don't have the value of m, but we need to solve for it, okay? So how do I do that? This is multiplying, so I would just divide by root 2 and root 2, okay? This cancels out, which is n, which is what I want, but then look what happens on the other side. This cancels as well, so I'm just left with n equals 2. Okay? So get that. And then guess what? X and y are kind of similar. X is across from 45, and y is also across from 45. So in terms of x and y, in a 45, 45, 90, they both equal n. And look at what you just found. N is 2, so x is 2, and y is 2. And that's it. Okay? So I went through that kind of quickly, but we will have more time to cover this the next couple, I'll cover this once I get back, okay? But here's what you are going to be working on today. There is a lesson 8.1 day 2 worksheet, okay? It is in the it is in the folder labeled the stuff from Thursday. So if you go to my desk, it should be in that big black binder with the blue folder, okay? And that will be due, I'm going to be back on Tuesday, so that will be due on Tuesday. I'm going to check in all these homeworks that I missed the day I get back, which is Tuesday, okay? So that's due, okay? If you have any questions, let me know, email me. But yeah, you can sign up now and work on that worksheet. Thanks, guys.